Spider-Man was already tired before the sky even broke. It was late, the kind of New York night where the city still buzzed, but softer. Cars moved like slow fish in street light. A few people stood outside a pizza place, laughing too loud. Peter Parker swung above it all, eyes on the usual stuff: muggings, small fires, a runaway truck. Then the air changed. It did not smell like smoke. It did not sound like thunder. It just felt wrong, like the city took one deep breath and forgot how to let it out. Above Midtown, a clean line of light appeared. Not a circle like Doctor Strange's portal. Not a tear like a bad magic wound. This was sharp and still, like someone drew a door in the sky with a ruler. People pointed. Phones rose. A taxi slammed on its brakes. Somewhere, a car horn got stuck and stayed that way. Peter swung closer, slowing as he came in. His spider sense did not scream the way it did with bombs or bullets. It buzzed low and steady, like a warning that would not stop. The line widened. A doorway opened, and a man stepped out. He did not fall. He did not stumble. He simply walked from nothing into the air, as if the sky had always been a floor meant for him. He wore a dark suit that looked too neat for an accident like this. His hair was light and tidy. His face was calm, like he was mildly annoyed at being interrupted. He looked down at New York, not amazed, not scared, just judging, in a quiet way. Peter landed on a rooftop across from him, knees bent, ready to jump. The man's eyes flicked toward him with the speed of someone who noticed everything. "Okay," Peter said, forcing his voice to sound normal. "Hi. Welcome to New York. Please don't explode anything." The man's mouth lifted a little, not a warm smile, more like he found the idea amusing. "Explosions are messy," he said. His voice was smooth and clear. "I prefer clean endings." Below them, the doorway's edge rippled. Wind blasted outward. A glass tower, a block, away made a sharp cracking sound. Peter's head snapped toward it. The tower's outer support beams, already stressed from a construction mistake, gave way in a chain reaction. A top corner of the building started to fold. People screamed. Phones dropped. Someone yelled, "Run!" Peter launched himself toward the falling side. But the man moved first. He did not sprint. He did not fly with a big show. He simply lifted one hand and turned his wrist slightly, like he was adjusting a lamp. The entire collapsing corner stopped. It froze in the air. Hundreds of tons of steel and glass held perfectly still. No shaking. No wobble. It hung there like it weighed nothing. Peter's mouth went dry behind his mask. The man made another small motion. The corner eased back into place, slow and careful, as if invisible workers were guiding it. The broken beams slid together and aligned. The building settled. The screaming slowed into stunned silence. No one got crushed. No dust cloud. No heroic struggle. Just fixed. Peter stared at the man like he had just watched someone solve a math test by blinking. Peter said. "Thanks?" The man looked down at the crowd. People were filming him now. Some pointed like he was an angel. Some backed away like he was a monster. He sighed. Then he spoke to the air itself, as if it could answer. "Whose rules are these?" he asked. Peter took one step forward. "Rules? Like traffic rules? Because those don't work here." The man's eyes slid back to Peter. "Not those." A hot ring of orange sparks flared behind Peter. Peter spun, ready to fight. Dr. Strange stepped out of a portal, cloak floating like it had its own mood. He took one look at the man in the sky and went still. Strange's face did not show fear often. Right now, it showed something close to it. Not fear of death. Fear of the unknown. The man tilted his head at Strange, as if he finally found someone worth speaking to. "You," the man, said. "You are a gatekeeper." Strange held his hands ready but not attacking. "Who are you?" The man's gaze flicked around the city again, then back. "Take me," he said, "to your highest authority." Strange's voice stayed calm, but his eyes narrowed. In this universe, authority is complicated. The man smiled a little wider at that. "Then we will have fun." And Peter realized, in one cold moment, that whatever this was, New York was not ready. Stephen Strange did not bring the stranger straight to the Avengers. He brought him home. The Sanctum Sanctorum looked normal from the street, an old building with too many stairs, a place most people ignored. Inside, it was a fortress made of knowledge, traps, and careful rules. Strange led the stranger through the front door like he was inviting a guest to tea, not escorting a walking cosmic problem. Peter followed close behind, still buzzing with tension. The stranger's eyes moved over everything. Ancient relics, protective marks, shelves filled with strange tools. He looked interested, but not impressed. The cloak of levitation drifted in front of Strange, like a guard dog putting itself between them. The stranger glanced at it. "A loyal thing," he said. "I respect that." The cloak bristled. Strange kept walking. He guided them into a large room with a circular floor design. Lines and symbols were carved into the stone, the kind of circle you stood in when you wanted to know exactly what you were dealing with. Peter looked from the circle to Strange. "Is this like a magic metal detector?" "In a way," Strange said. The stranger stepped into the circle without being asked. He did it with the ease of someone who did not believe any cage could hold him. Strange raised one hand and spoke words that made the air tighten. The carvings on the floor lit up. The room's temperature shifted. Peter waited for the stranger to flinch. He did not. The light crawled over him like scanner beams. It brightened. It dimmed. It tried to settle on a shape, a category, a name. It failed. The light jittered. The symbols flickered. One rune cracked with a soft pop. Strange's eyes widened. He lowered his hand before the spell could break something important. Peter swallowed. "That's bad, right?" Strange did not answer right away. He studied the stranger's face, searching for any sign of effort, any sign of strain. There was none. The stranger watched Strange, like a man watching a locksmith try keys. "You expected me to fit into your labels," the stranger said. "I expected something," Strange replied. The stranger's tone stayed polite. "I am not your demon, not your god, not your alien." Peter blurted, "Are you like a super advanced magician?" The stranger looked at Peter as if he was deciding whether to be kind. "I suppose that is the closest word your mouth can handle," he said. "But no." Strange folded his arms slowly, careful not to look like he was posturing. "Then tell me what you are." The stranger's gaze went distant for a second, like he was looking at a memory he did not enjoy. "I come from another creation," he said. "Another set of rules. One beat." "I do not like cages," he said. "Another beat." "I do not like being given a role I did not choose," he added. Strange's voice stayed steady. "Do you want to rule this world?" The stranger almost laughed. "Why would I trade one prison for another?" Peter's shoulders eased a tiny bit. Then he caught himself. Relaxing around this man felt like relaxing next to a lit bomb. Strange nodded once. "Then what do you want?" The stranger's eyes returned to Strange, bright with sharp interest. "I want to know who here pretends to own the rules," he said. "And I want to be left alone." Peter blinked. "Those two things do not match." "They do," the stranger said. "In time." Strange moved toward a table, covered with artifacts. He did not turn his back fully. You asked for authority. There are many. Governments, heroes, cosmic forces. The stranger looked pleased by that list. Good. Peter cleared his throat. Okay, so, we need a name. You can't be mysterious, fancy sky guy forever. The stranger considered that. Names are tools, he said. Tools get used. Strange watched him carefully. A name helps us talk. It does not give us control. The stranger studied Strange's face, like he was checking if that was true. Very well, he said. Call me Lucifer. Peter's eyes widened. Like the... Lucifer raised one finger. Do not finish that sentence. Peter shut his mouth. Strange's expression stayed controlled, but a small tension appeared near his eyes. He had heard that name in too many dangerous stories. Before Strange could ask more, the sanctum's wards flared. A low alarm tone echoed through the building. Not loud, not panicked. Serious. Strange turned toward the main window. The air outside shimmered with invisible pressure. Someone was watching. Not a person. Not a drone. Something that looked through reality like it was a window. Strange's voice dropped. You brought attention. Lucifer tilted his head. Of course. Peter's spider sense buzzed again, stronger. Strange moved fast. He opened a portal and stepped through into a hidden room filled with monitors, books, and a floating set of glowing runes. He pulled up readings from the wards. Energy signature unknown, one of the readings flashed. Dimensional origin, not mapped, another flashed. Strange muttered. That's not possible. Lucifer stood in the doorway, calm. It is, he said. A portal opened in the corner of the room. Nick Fury stepped through like he owned the floor. He did not flinch at the magic. He did not gape at the stranger. Fury's eye locked on Lucifer like a rifle sight. You're the problem, Fury said. Peter stiffened. He saved a building. Fury did not look at Peter. That's what problems do first. They show you what they can do. Lucifer smiled faintly. A paranoid one. Excellent. Fury's hand hovered near his weapon, but he did not draw. He knew better than to point a gun at something that could stop buildings mid-air. Name, Fury demanded. Lucifer's eyes flicked to Strange, like he was allowing Strange to speak for him. Strange said. He calls himself Lucifer. Fury's face did not change. That's not a real answer. Lucifer's smile sharpened. It is an answer. You simply do not like it. Another portal sparked. Tony Stark stepped out, wearing a suit jacket and the look of a man who had been awake for too long. Behind him came Steve Rogers, calm and alert, like he had stepped into a war room. Tony's eyes locked on Lucifer. For half a second, Tony looked like someone seeing a new kind of math problem. Then the mask of humor slid on. Okay, Tony said. We have a guy named Lucifer floating over Manhattan, fixing buildings with finger flicks, and my night is officially worse than usual. Steve's gaze moved from Lucifer to Strange, to Fury. Start from the beginning. Peter raised a hand. I can... Tony cut in gently, but firmly. Kid, breathe. We've got it. Peter lowered his hand. He hated that he felt relieved. Steve stepped forward, stopping at a respectful distance from Lucifer. You saved people out there. Thank you. Lucifer looked at Steve like he was trying to place him in a category. You're honest, Lucifer said. I can tell. Steve nodded once. We try. Tony leaned toward Strange, voice low. Tell me you have a plan. Strange's eyes stayed on Lucifer. I have options. Tony's jaw tightened. That was not the same thing. Fury spoke again. You're in our world. That makes you our concern. Lucifer's eyes cooled. The room seemed to grow heavier. Not like gravity, like pressure. I am not your property, Lucifer said. Steve lifted one hand slightly. Calm. No one said you were. Fury's tone stayed hard. I didn't say property. I said concern. Lucifer looked at Fury with something like mild pity. You build cages for storms, he said. Then you act surprised when they break. Tony's smile became thinner. He was filing away every word, every tone. Shift. He was already building a mental list of fail-safes. Strange stepped between them, just a little. We don't want to fight. Lucifer's attention shifted to Strange, softer. Nor do I. I want clarity. Tony crossed his arms. Clarity is great. Let's start with this. How strong are you? Lucifer looked amused. Strong enough that your question is meaningless. Tony's eyes narrowed. That's not comforting. Lucifer glanced around the room, then at Tony's hands, at Fury's stance, at Steve's calm. He looked like he was reading them like pages. I will not harm this world without cause, Lucifer said. I have no interest in ruling it. I have no need for your cities. Fury said, and what counts as cause? Lucifer smiled. A cage? The room went quiet. Peter watched Steve's face. Steve was not scared, but Peter could see something else. Concern. The kind that came when you met someone who did not share your rules. Strange pulled a book from a shelf. It was old, protected by spells, and heavy with warning. Tony noticed and sighed. Oh, good. The creepy book face. Strange ignored him. He flipped through pages filled with ancient symbols and notes from people who had seen too much. Your aura, Strange said to Lucifer, does not match any demon I know. Not Mephisto. Not Nightmare. Not anything from the dark dimension. Lucifer's eyes flashed with annoyance at one name. Mephisto, he repeated, like it tasted bad. A pathetic merchant. Tony perked up. You know him? Lucifer looked at Tony. I know of many liars. Strange's fingers paused on a page. He found a reference, not a clear description, but a hint. A story from a mystic who had once looked beyond their universe and regretted it. Strange read silently. His face tightened. Steve noticed. What is it? Strange looked up at Lucifer. Morningstar. It was not a question. It was a test. Lucifer's smile returned, slow and sharp. Ah, he said. You found a real name. Peter's stomach dropped. The way Strange said it made it sound like a warning label. Tony's eyes flicked to Fury. Fury's jaw clenched. Steve held his ground. What does that mean? Strange did not answer right away. His voice came carefully. It means he might be from a myth older than ours, a being tied to rebellion, to choice, to punishment. Peter's head spun. So he's like the devil? Lucifer's eyes snapped to Peter. The room chilled for a heartbeat. Peter took a step back, hands raised. I didn't mean... Lucifer's voice stayed calm, but it cut. Do not reduce me to your children's stories. Steve stepped in, not aggressive, but firm. Peter didn't mean disrespect. Lucifer stared at Steve for a long second. Then the pressure eased. Steve exhaled quietly. He did not know if that was a win or just luck. Tony tried a new angle. Okay, no labels. Fine. But we still have a safety problem. Lucifer's gaze slid to Tony. You want to build a plan to stop me? Tony did not deny it. Yes. Lucifer nodded like he respected the honesty. Good. Build it. Tony blinked. Wait, what? Lucifer's smile became almost friendly. I enjoy effort. I simply dislike false hope. Fury said. We need to know if you're staying. Lucifer shrugged. I am here. For now. Strange watched the wards again. The unseen pressure outside had not left. It was like the universe itself had leaned in to listen. Strange lowered his voice. Something noticed you the moment you arrived. Lucifer's eyes lifted, like he could sense it too. Of course it did, he said. I walked into someone else's house. Peter swallowed. Who noticed? Strange hesitated. I don't know. Lucifer's smile returned. We will find out. Steve looked from Strange to Fury to Tony. We can't fight someone we don't understand, he said. We also can't pretend he's not here. Fury's eye stayed hard. So we watch. Tony nodded. We test. We prepare. Strange added. And we don't provoke. All eyes turned to Lucifer. Lucifer looked amused, like he was watching a group of ants decide how to deal with a lion. I will accept your watching, he said. On one condition. Fury's voice was sharp. No conditions. Lucifer's gaze pinned him. Then you will fail. Steve held up a hand toward Fury, a quiet request to let it play out. What, condition? Steve asked. Lucifer's voice was simple. No one tries to own me. Tony let out a short laugh. That's weirdly reasonable. Fury's expression stayed flat. We'll see. Lucifer nodded, satisfied enough. Then he looked down at his empty hands, as if remembering something. One more matter, he said. Tony tensed again. Of course, Lucifer glanced at Strange. I require a small agreement, he said. A paper contract, something simple. You will not spy on me while I sleep. Strange stared. A contract? Lucifer's eyes gleamed. It is polite. Tony's mouth fell open. You want us to sign a no spying form? Like a celebrity NDA? Lucifer looked mildly offended. Do not compare me to your entertainers, Peter blurted. Do you have a pen? Lucifer looked at Peter, like the question itself was a small tragedy. I do not carry petty items, Lucifer said. I carry promises. Tony rubbed his forehead. This is going to be a long week. Outside the sanctum, the invisible watcher pressure shifted again, like a slow blink. Strange felt it in his bones. Whatever was listening, it was still there. And it was not alone. The next day, Manhattan did not feel normal, even when people went to work, even when kids went to school, even when the news tried to talk about weather and sports. Everyone had seen the videos. A man stepping out of the sky, a building fixed like a toy, a name whispered in fear and excitement. Lucifer stayed in the sanctum's guest rooms, not because he had to, but because he chose to. He walked through the halls like he was touring a museum. Sometimes he touched an artifact and smiled, like he recognized it from a story. Stephen Strange did not sleep much. He kept checking wards. He kept checking old texts. He kept trying to make sense of a being that did not fit. Tony Stark did not sleep at all. He sat in a secure room, watching live feeds from satellites, drones, and sensors that measured everything from radiation to magic residue. Most of his screens showed unknown. Tony hated unknown. Fury's people tried to find records. There were none. That made Fury more certain. Steve did what Steve always did. He talked to people. He spoke to Peter first, because Peter's fear was loud and human, and Steve knew fear could push people into bad choices. Peter sat on the sanctum steps with his mask off, elbows on knees. He looked like he wanted to joke. He couldn't. He stopped a building, Peter said, like it was nothing. I fought aliens and robots, and this feels different. Steve sat beside him. Different how? Peter stared at his hands. He looked at us like we were small. Steve nodded slowly. We are small compared to some things. Peter swallowed. So what do we do? Steve looked at the street. Normal people walked by with coffee cups. They had no idea how close the world felt to snapping. We do what we always do, Steve said. We stay calm. We protect people. We don't let fear decide for us. Peter nodded, but he still looked sick with worry. Inside, Strange met with Lucifer in the library. He kept the setting calm on purpose. Books, candles, quiet. A place where people talked instead of fought. Lucifer held an old text in one hand, reading it faster than Strange liked. "You read quickly," Strange said. "I listened quickly," Lucifer replied, not looking up. Strange stayed patient. "You said you want to know who owns the rules here." Lucifer turned a page. "Yes." Strange leaned forward. "In this universe, no one owns them. Not fully." Lucifer's eyes flicked up. "A lie." Strange did not flinch. "A truth. It's just messy." Lucifer closed the book and set it down gently. "Then tell me," he said. "Who enforces them?" Strange chose his words. "Sometimes it's people like us. Sometimes it's cosmic beings. Sometimes it's the universe correcting itself." Lucifer's smile came back. "So there is a court." Strange's stomach tightened. "Sometimes." Lucifer leaned back, relaxed, like he was enjoying a story. "Good." Strange tried another question. "Why did you come here? Was it an accident?" For the first time, Lucifer's face showed something like irritation. "I opened a door," he said. "I expected somewhere else." Strange watched him. "So you didn't choose Marvel's Earth?" Lucifer's eyes narrowed slightly. "Do not name it, like you own it." Strange exhaled. "Fine, you didn't choose this world." Lucifer's expression eased. "Correct." Strange waited. "And the place you expected?" Lucifer's gaze went distant again. "A place quieter, a place with fewer masks." Strange's thoughts flicked to the heroes, to hiding, to secret identities, to the way this world fought threats every week. "You came to rest," Strange said. Lucifer's smile was thin. "I came to stop being bored." Strange's skin prickled. That answer was worse. Boredom was not evil. But boredom in a being like this could be a disaster. Across the city, Thor arrived with a crack of lightning. Not in a quiet way. Thor never did quiet when he wanted to make a point. He landed near the sanctum, cape snapping, eyes hard. People pointed and cheered. Some filmed again. Thor walked up the steps like a storm in human shape. Loki appeared beside him like a shadow that decided to wear a smile. "Brother," Loki said, looking around, "New York truly is addicted to drama." Thor ignored him and pushed into the sanctum. Strange met him halfway. "Thor." Thor's voice boomed even when he tried to be polite. "Sorcerer. I felt a presence in the sky, a presence that is not of Asgard, nor of Midgard." Strange nodded. "He's inside." Loki's eyes gleamed. "Oh, I do hope he's interesting." Strange shot Loki a warning look. Loki only smiled wider. They entered the library. Lucifer looked up, and for a moment, Strange saw something subtle. Recognition, not friendship, not fear. But the awareness of one powerful thing noticing another. Thor squared his shoulders. "Stranger," Thor said, voice firm. "State your nature." Lucifer's eyes slid over Thor's armor, his hammer, his posture. Lucifer looked amused. "You are loud," Lucifer said. Thor bristled. "I am Thor Odinson." Lucifer nodded once. "Yes, I can tell." Loki stepped forward, hands behind his back like a polite prince. "And I am Loki," he said smoothly. "I do adore meeting new gods." Lucifer's gaze pinned Loki. "You are not a god," Lucifer said, calm as a knife. "You are a liar in a crown." Loki's smile froze for half a second. Then it returned, sharper. "How charming." Thor lifted Mjolnir slightly, not as a threat yet, but as a reminder. "If you are a danger to this realm," Lucifer cut in, still calm. "If I were a danger, you would already be ash." The room went still. Thor's eyes flared with anger, but Strange saw something else too. Thor believed him. That was the problem. Thor was proud, but he was not stupid. Strange stepped in fast. No one is fighting here. Lucifer's gaze shifted to Strange. Relax. I have no interest in killing a man with a hammer. Thor's grip tightened. I am no mere man. Lucifer's eyes returned to Thor, and his voice softened just enough to be insulting. Yes, that is what you tell yourself. Loki chuckled, delighted despite himself. Tony Stark chose that moment to walk in. He was not in armor. That was a choice, a statement. He wanted this to look like a meeting, not a battle. Okay, Tony said, spreading his hands. We have Thor, we have Loki, we have Doctor Strange, we have Captain America somewhere being emotionally responsible. This is either a very bad day or a very expensive party. Lucifer looked at Tony, and Strange noticed something odd. Lucifer seemed to enjoy Tony's mouth, like Tony was entertaining. Ah, Lucifer said, the suspicious builder. Tony's eyes narrowed. And you're the guy who breaks my instruments. Lucifer smiled. Your instruments are childish. Tony's jaw clenched. Rude. Steve entered quietly behind Tony. He looked at Thor's stance, Loki's grin, Strange's tension, and Lucifer's calm. Steve spoke to Lucifer. I'm Steve Rogers. Lucifer's eyes rested on Steve again. Yes, he said. The honest one. Steve did not react to that. We don't know what you are, Steve said. We don't know what you want. But people are scared, so we need rules. Lucifer leaned back in his chair, relaxed. Rules, he repeated, almost fondly. Everyone loves rules. For other people. Steve held steady. Not like that. Lucifer's eyes sharpened. Like that. Strange watched this and felt the fault line. This was not just about power. This was about control. And Marvel's heroes lived in a world where control was always being fought over. By villains, by governments, by cosmic forces. Now they had a being who hated cages more than he hated enemies. Strange decided to be direct. Lucifer, Strange said, you asked for the highest authority. We don't have one person. Lucifer's smile returned. Then take me to your highest system. Tony blinked. Our highest system? Fury's voice crackled from a secure call device Tony carried. Fury was not in the room, but he was never truly absent. Don't, Fury said. Whatever he wants, it's not good. Lucifer tilted his head, as if he could hear Fury through the device without effort. You hide behind wires, he said. How fitting. Tony glanced down at the device, annoyed. Stop talking to my phone. Lucifer ignored him and looked at Strange. You have records, he said. You have watchers. You have courts. Strange's stomach tightened again. We have beings, Strange admitted. Cosmic ones. Lucifer's eyes lit with quiet interest. Good. Then, without warning, the sanctum's wards flared again, harder than before. Strange felt it like a punch in the chest. Outside, the air over the city darkened in a way that had nothing to do with weather. A shadowed pressure moved like a slow tide. Thor stepped toward the window, eyes narrowing. That is not natural. Loki's smile faded. That is unpleasant. Tony's watch beeped. One of his sensors had finally decided to give him something other than unknown. It flashed a warning word in red. Incursion. Strange's face went pale. No, he whispered. Not now. Lucifer's eyes lifted, calm and alert. Something comes, he said, as if he could taste it. Steve's voice stayed steady. What is it? Strange swallowed. The dark dimension. The sky over New York rippled like a wound opening. And something on the other side noticed the man named Lucifer and smiled. The breach did not open like a door. It opened like the city was being peeled. The air above Manhattan warped. Buildings bent at the edges like someone was twisting a picture. Streetlights stretched into long lines. People screamed as the street in front of them turned into a hallway that looped back into itself. Stephen Strange stood on a rooftop with the wind whipping his cloak. He watched the breach widen and felt cold anger in his chest. Dormammu. Strange knew that pressure, that hunger, that endless patience. Dormammu did not usually rush like this. He pushed slowly. He tested. He waited for mistakes. Now he shoved. Strange's eyes flicked to Lucifer, who stood beside him like he was watching fireworks. "You did this," Strange said. Lucifer's gaze stayed on the rippling sky. "I did not invite him," he said. "That's not what I meant," Strange snapped, then forced himself to breathe. "You are a beacon." Lucifer smiled faintly. "Everything bright attracts insects." Strange hated that comparison, even if it was simple. Below, Spider-Man swung through chaos, grabbing people off sidewalks before the street could fold them into the breach. Peter's heart hammered. His spider sense was a constant alarm now. He grabbed a woman by the arm. "This way! Don't look up! Just run!" A man tried to film instead of moving. Peter yanked his shirt and dragged him. "Buddy, I love content too, but now is not the time." A bus skidded sideways as the road turned into a slope. Peter webbed it to a lamppost, then to another, creating a brace. Cars honked. People cried. A kid shouted for his mom. Peter's throat tightened. He saw Captain America below, directing people with sharp, clear gestures. Steve's voice cut through panic like a bell. "Move! Keep moving! Stay together!" Steve shouted. "Follow the firefighters! No one goes back!" Iron Man dropped from the sky in full armor, repulsors blazing. He hovered near a collapsing building edge and fired a controlled blast to push debris away from a crowd. "Friday," Tony said, jaw tight. "Give me a stable pattern." "Pattern unstable," the AI replied. "Dimensional geometry shifting." Tony cursed. "Of course it is." Thor streaked through the air, lightning cracking, smashing dark, floating shapes that poured from the breach. They were not quite creatures, more like chunks of night that learned how to bite. Thor's hammer crushed one, and it burst into black sparks that vanished. "Back!" Thor roared at civilians, swinging his arm to push a gust of wind away from them. "Do not look upon the void." Loki stood on a rooftop edge, hands glowing with green magic. His smile was gone. This was not a trick he controlled. "So dramatic," Loki muttered, but his voice was strained. He formed illusions, false walls, false streets, to guide civilians away from the worst bends in space. Strange lifted both hands and began a spell. Golden symbols formed in the air like rotating shields. He aimed them at the breach, trying to bind its edge, to slow Dormammu's push. The breach shuddered, then pushed back harder. Strange's teeth clenched. Dormammu's will pressed against his like a giant hand against a door. A deep voice rolled through the sky, not from speakers, but from reality itself. Strange. The word shook windows. Dormammu's presence loomed behind the breach like a sun made of darkness. Strange's face tightened. "Dormammu," he whispered. The voice came again, louder. "You have brought me a new flame." Strange's eyes flicked to Lucifer. Lucifer looked interested. Not afraid. Not impressed. Interested. Dormammu's pressure shifted, as if focusing. The breach widened a fraction, like an eye-opening. Strange felt it. Dormammu was looking at Lucifer. "Who are you?" Dormammu's voice rumbled, heavy with hunger. "You are not bound to this realm." Lucifer stepped forward, hands in his pockets, as if he was strolling. "I am a visitor," Lucifer said calmly, "and you are rude." Dormammu laughed. It was a sound like mountains grinding. "Everything here belongs to me," Dormammu said. "Even your visit." Lucifer's eyes cooled. "No," he said. "It does not." Strange's stomach dropped. He had fought Dormammu with tricks and time loops. He had survived by being clever, not stronger. Lucifer was not being clever. Lucifer was being direct. Strange raised a hand toward Lucifer. "Wait!" Lucifer did not look back. He walked toward the breach. Strange's cloak tugged at him like it wanted him to stop this. Tony's voice crackled in Strange's comm. "Hey, wizard," Tony said. "Tell me your plan is not letting Mr. Fancy Pants stroll into Hell's waiting room." Strange did not answer. He did not have a plan that included this. Lucifer stepped into the edge of the breach. The air around him warped, but it did not grab him. It did not twist him. It did not chew him up like it did with everything else. It was as if reality did not dare. Peter saw it from below for a second through the bending streets. He stopped mid-swing, almost losing his rhythm. He watched Lucifer walk into the dark like it was a hallway. Peter's throat went tight. "Oh no," he whispered. "He's going in." Strange followed close, but he did not enter. He stood at the line, hands ready, eyes wide. Inside the breach, the dark dimension pressed forward like a living ocean. Strange had seen it before. Endless, hungry, cold. Lucifer stood on nothing and did not fall. Dormammu's form loomed, huge and burning with dark fire. "You are outside law," Dormammu said, voice sharp with interest now. "I could use you." Lucifer looked up at the giant presence like he was looking at an annoying billboard. "You can use nothing," Lucifer said. Dormammu's fire flared. "All things kneel." Lucifer's smile vanished. His eyes became bright and flat at once. "I do not kneel," Lucifer said. Dormammu struck, not with a fist, with a wave of dimension itself. The dark dimension surged like a tidal wall, trying to crush Lucifer, to rewrite him, to force him into its shape. Strange braced. He expected a blast, an explosion, a shockwave that would tear the city. Instead, Lucifer raised one hand. He did not shout. He did not strain. He did something worse. He made the wave stop. The dark dimension froze around him, caught mid-motion like a paused video. Dormammu's voice paused too, as if even his speech had hit a wall. Strange's breath caught. Tony's sensors in his helmet screamed. Thor hovered on the edge of the breach, eyes wide. Even Thor had never seen someone tell a whole realm to sit down. Lucifer turned his head slightly, looking at Strange, as if to make sure Strange was watching. Then he looked back at Dormammu. "This is not your house," Lucifer said. Dormammu's fire flared again, furious now. "Everything is my house," Lucifer's voice stayed calm. "Then you are a thief." Dormammu pushed harder. The frozen dimension shook. It tried to resume motion by pure force. Lucifer's fingers curled, gentle, like closing a book. The breach's edges tightened. The warped streets in Manhattan began to snap back into place. The looping hallway streets straightened. The stretched streetlights returned to normal. Civilians stumbled, confused, falling onto normal pavement again. Peter caught a kid before he hit the ground. Hey, you're okay. You're okay." Steve looked up, eyes locked on the sky. He watched the breach shrink and felt a strange mix of relief and dread. Relief because people were safe. Dread because he could feel the truth. They were not saving themselves. Someone else was deciding to save them. Dormammu's voice roared, fighting the closing walls. "You cannot lock me out." Lucifer's eyes narrowed. "Watch me." Dormammu changed tactics. Instead of force, he tried dominance. The dark dimension's fire formed into shapes, chains made of darkness, links carved with ancient symbols meant to bind gods. Strange's eyes widened. "No! Those are—" The chains shot toward Lucifer, aiming for his wrists, his throat, his heart. Lucifer did not dodge. He let them touch him. For half a second, Strange felt the air hold its breath. Then the chains snapped apart like dry sticks. Not with an explosion, with a simple failure. Like the idea of binding him could not survive contact with him. Dormammu's voice turned sharp, almost panicked under the anger. "What are you?" Lucifer's smile returned, but it was not playful. "I am not yours," he said. Dormammu's fire flared brighter. Strange felt the pressure spike as Dormammu tried to shove his entire realm through the shrinking breach. If Dormammu succeeded, Manhattan would be swallowed. If Lucifer responded with full anger, Strange did not know what would happen to the rest of reality. Strange made a choice. He stepped forward and shouted into the breach, voice strong. "Dormammu, this world is protected." Dormammu's laugh was bitter. Protected by what? By your tricks? By your fragile heroes? Strange's jaw tightened. Protected by choice. Dormammu paused. Lucifer glanced at Strange, surprised. Strange held Lucifer's gaze for one heartbeat, and Strange hoped Lucifer understood. This was not Strange trying to control him. This was Strange reminding him of the theme Lucifer claimed to love. Lucifer's expression softened in a way only Strange noticed. Then Lucifer turned back to Dormammu. "This world is loud," Lucifer said. "It is foolish. It is full of masks, but it is theirs." Dormammu's presence pushed again, desperate now. Lucifer's eyes cooled. "And you," Lucifer said, voice low, "do not get to take what is not offered." Lucifer snapped his fingers. The sound was small, but the effect was huge. The breach sealed, not like a door shutting, like the tear in the sky had never existed. The last strands of dark fire were cut off. The last shadow creatures dissolved into nothing. The wind stopped. For a heartbeat, New York was silent. Then the noise returned. Sirens, shouting, sobbing, and the sound of people realizing they were alive. Strange's knees nearly buckled from the release of pressure. Tony hovered above, armor humming. He stared at the clean sky where the breach had been. "Tell me," Tony said softly into his comm, "that you all saw that." Thor landed beside Strange on a rooftop, eyes locked on Lucifer. Thor looked shaken, and Thor did not like being shaken. Loki's eyes were bright with a dangerous kind of excitement. "Oh," Loki whispered, "he's very interesting." Peter clung to the side of a building, breathing hard. His hands trembled inside his gloves. He had seen power before. This was different. This was power that did not look like effort. This was power that looked like permission. Strange turned toward Lucifer, voice careful. "You could have destroyed him." Lucifer looked at Strange, as if Strange had missed the point. "I did not come here to murder every loud thing that annoys me," Lucifer said. Tony dropped onto the roof with a heavy thud. His faceplate slid open. His eyes were sharp, uneasy. "You didn't kill him," Tony said. "But you just told a whole dimension no like it was a child." Lucifer's gaze met Tony's. "Yes," Tony swallowed. "And if you ever tell us no like that." Lucifer smiled faintly. "Then you will learn humility." Tony's mouth tightened. "Great." Steve climbed up onto the rooftop, breathing hard from the stairs because Steve still moved like a man, not a god. He looked at the city below, people safe, buildings standing, smoke drifting in small threads. He looked at Lucifer. "Thank you," Steve said. Lucifer's eyes rested on Steve again, and Strange saw that same small respect. Then Lucifer looked up at the sky, as if he could see beyond it. Strange followed his gaze, and felt it too. A presence. Not Dormammu. Something else. Something that did not roar. Something that watched. For one brief second, Strange felt like a tiny figure standing in a courtroom. He could not see the judge, but he could feel the judge's attention. Lucifer smiled toward the unseen watcher. "Hello," he said quietly. Tony's brows pulled together. "Who are you talking to?" Lucifer did not answer. Strange swallowed. "We're not alone," he said. Thor's grip tightened on Mjolnir. "Name your watcher." The sky did not respond, but the feeling remained. A calm, heavy awareness. Then it faded slightly, like someone leaning back in their chair. Lucifer's smile stayed. Strange felt cold. Dormammu was gone for now. But now the real problem was clear. The universe had noticed Lucifer Morningstar, and the universe was deciding what to do about him. The next morning, New York tried to pretend it was normal. People still bought coffee. Kids still argued on sidewalks. Trucks still blocked lanes like they owned the street. But everyone's eyes kept drifting up. Peter Parker sat on the edge of a roof, with his mask rolled halfway up his head. The wind was cold. His phone buzzed non-stop in his pocket. He did not want to look at it. He did anyway. The first video had millions of views. A shaky clip of the sky splitting open. A man stepping out like he had done it 1,000 times. A building stopping in midair like the world paused just for him. The comments were worse. Angel, alien, devil, Mephisto. Thor's dad? Peter rubbed his face with one hand. "Okay," he muttered. "We're not doing the Thor's dad thing, please." He pulled the mask back down and swung off the roof. He was trying to help with cleanup. That was what he did when he was scared. He moved. He carried people. He fixed small things so the big things did not crush him. Below, a woman argued with a police officer about why the street had turned into a hallway last night. The officer looked like he was about to cry. Peter landed nearby and lifted a bent metal barrier back into place. "Hey," he said to the officer, trying a friendly voice. "Rough night, huh?" The officer blinked. "Spider-Man." "Yep," Peter said. "Still here. Still doing the thing." The officer glanced up at the skyline again. Is he still here?" Peter's chest tightened. He knew who he meant. "I don't know," Peter lied. The truth was worse. Peter did know, because his spider sense had not gone quiet since last night. It was like his body still remembered that feeling. The feeling of being in the same city as someone who could fold the rules with a finger. Peter swung away before the officer could ask more. He did not want to answer. He did not even know what the answer meant. Stephen Strange sat in the Sanctum's library, surrounded by old books, glowing wards, and a silence that felt forced. Lucifer had not slept. Not really. Strange could feel him moving sometimes. Soft footsteps. A door opening without squeaking. A piano key pressed once, then another, then nothing. Strange pretended not to notice. He was focused on names. Names mattered. Names were anchors. Names could tell you what kind of thing you were dealing with. But every book Strange opened did the same thing. It gave him pieces. Rebel, Lightbringer, Fallen, King, Prisoner, Free. And then it stopped, as if the rest of the story belonged to another shelf in another universe. Strange closed one book and opened another. The page he needed had a single line written in the margin by a sorcerer from long ago. "Do not bargain with the morning star. He does not trade like devils, he trades like kings." Strange stared at the line until his eyes hurt, heard a calm voice behind him. "You are trying to make me smaller," Lucifer said. Strange did not turn. "I'm trying to understand you." Lucifer walked past the shelves like he had lived here for years. He wore the same suit. It still looked perfect. That alone annoyed Strange. Everything else about him was worse. "You understand cages," Lucifer said. "You build them in circles on the floor." "They protect people," Strange replied. Lucifer's smile was faint. "Sometimes." Strange finally turned. "You shut Dormammu out like it was nothing." Lucifer tilted his head. It was nothing. That kind of power makes people panic, Strange said. Lucifer's eyes were calm and sharp. People panic when they realize they are not in control. Strange felt heat rise in his chest. I wasn't talking about pride. I was talking about safety. Lucifer looked amused again, like Strange had told him a joke. Safety, Lucifer repeated. You mean obedience? Strange's hands clenched, then relaxed. He forced his voice steady. You told Dormammu no, Strange said. Good. Thank you. But if you ever tell the world no to something, it needs… Lucifer cut him off. Needs? He asked, as if the word itself was suspicious. Or wants? Strange held his gaze. People need to live. Lucifer's expression did not change, but something in the air did. A slight pressure, like a door closing softly. I did not come here to massacre your city, Lucifer said. Stop asking me to promise what I already chose. Strange swallowed. He realized he had been asking for a leash. He hated that he had. You're right, Strange said quietly. I'm sorry. Lucifer studied him, like he was checking if Strange meant it. Then Lucifer leaned on the back of a chair, casual. You are afraid I will become bored, Lucifer said. Strange's throat tightened. Yes. Lucifer's smile returned, thin, honest. Good. Strange opened his mouth to speak again. A sharp, modern sound cut through the library. A phone buzzing. Strange's phone was not supposed to buzz. Not here. Not with these wards. Strange looked down. The screen lit up with a message from Tony Stark. Strange hesitated, then tapped it. We need to talk. Now. Also, your guest broke my sensors. Rude. Strange closed his eyes. Lucifer glanced at the phone. The suspicious builder, he said, like he enjoyed the phrase. He's calling you a global problem, Strange said. Lucifer shrugged. He is correct. Strange blinked. What? Lucifer smiled. I am a problem for any man who thinks he can measure everything. Strange did not know whether to laugh or scream. Tony Stark stood in a glass room inside Avengers Tower, surrounded by screens that showed maps, energy readings, and dozens of camera angles of New York. Most of the readings still came up blank. That blank space had a shape now. It had a center, point. The sanctum. Tony pointed at it with a metal pen like he could stab the idea. Okay, Tony said, pacing. He arrives. He snaps a building back together. He closes a dark dimension breach like he's closing a fridge. And now every mystic sensor we have is either screaming or playing dead. Rhodey leaned against a table, arms crossed. So what's the plan? Tony's mouth tightened. Plan A. Don't poke the god. Rhodey raised an eyebrow. You have a plan A that involves not poking? Tony glared. Don't act like I can't grow. Natasha watched Tony in silence. Her face was calm, but her eyes were sharp. People are already calling him the devil, she said. That changes how they behave. Tony nodded. Exactly. We're not just dealing with him. We're dealing with what people think he is. A door slid open. Steve Rogers walked in. He carried a folder with printed news headlines. Steve did not like tech meetings. Tony could always tell. Steve set the folder down. We have protests, Steve said, and we have people praying in the streets. Some are saying he's here to punish the world. Others are saying he's here to save it. Tony scoffed. Those are both terrible. Steve looked at Tony. We need to talk to him again. Tony's face tightened. You want to give him a welcome basket? Steve ignored the joke. We need to know what he will do when something worse than Dormammu comes. Tony looked away for half a second. He hated that Steve had said it, because Tony had thought the same thing. What counts as worse? Tony muttered. Natasha's voice was quiet. Someone who doesn't fight him head on. Tony's eyes flicked to her. He nodded slowly. Yeah, Tony said. That. The screens on the wall changed. Fury appeared on a secure video feed. His face looked like it had been carved out of stone. I want eyes on him 24/7, Fury said. Tony spread his hands. Great. How? He makes cameras feel embarrassed. Fury's eye narrowed. Then use people. Steve's jaw tightened. Not like that. Fury's voice stayed flat. Like that. I'm not letting a cosmic stranger stroll around my planet without pressure. Tony's hand tightened around the pen. He wanted to argue, but he also understood Fury's fear. The door opened again. Dr. Strange walked in. He looked tired. More tired than Tony expected. He did not sit. He can hear us, Strange said. The room went quiet. Rhodey frowned. Through walls. Strange's eyes stayed serious. Through intention. I don't know how. I just know he's aware. Tony forced a smirk. Cool. So the universe's most powerful guest is also the world's best eavesdropper. Strange's voice sharpened. Stop joking. Dormammu came faster than usual because of him. Something else was watching too. Steve leaned forward. What? Strange chose his words carefully. A presence, like a judge, like a witness. Tony's stomach sank. He had heard Strange talk about cosmic beings before. It was never casual. Natasha's eyes narrowed. Are we talking aliens or gods? Strange shook his head slightly. Bigger than that. Tony looked at the screens again. He saw the blank readings like holes in reality. Okay, Tony said softly. So we have two problems. He lifted a finger. Problem 1. Lucifer Morningstar is here. He lifted a second finger. Problem 2. The universe noticed. Steve held Tony's gaze. We don't treat him like an enemy. Tony's voice was tense. We don't treat him like a friend either. Strange's face tightened. He hates cages. If we push too hard, we might create the threat we're trying to prevent. Fury's voice came through sharp. Or we might prevent it. Steve's jaw tightened. No. Tony looked at Steve, then at Strange. He swallowed his frustration. Fine, Tony said. No cages, no attack. But I'm still building something. Rhodey asked, What? Tony's smile was thin and tired. A plan that probably won't work. Steve didn't like it. But Steve also didn't stop him. Deep below, far from New York streets and its hero meetings, a different kind of man sat in a place that looked like comfort and poison mixed together. A room made of dark luxury, a fire that did not give heat, only glow. A chair that looked like a throne pretending it wasn't. Mephisto watched New York through a window that was not a window. He watched the videos spread. He watched people argue. He watched fear become a shape you could sell. He smiled. Then his smile twitched, because the name on everyone's lips wasn't his. It was Lucifer. Mephisto leaned forward, elbows on his knees, his eyes bright and cruel. Of course, he murmured. Of course, the one time something truly interesting happens, it's him. A lesser demon stood near, the wall, nervous. Lord, should we? Mephisto snapped his fingers once. The lesser demon choked and froze, unable to speak. Not dead, just reminded. Mephisto turned his eyes back to the moving images. He watched Lucifer speak. He watched Lucifer refuse. He watched Lucifer stand like a man who did not believe in walls. Mephisto's smile returned, smaller and more dangerous. He is not of this system, Mephisto said softly, as if tasting the idea. That means he does not owe the rules here. He leaned back. And that, he whispered, makes him a key. Mephisto raised a hand, and the images shifted. Now he watched, not Lucifer. He watched the heroes. He watched Tony's tension. Strange's careful fear. Steve's stubborn decency. Mephisto chuckled. So many bright hearts, he said. So many easy handles. He tapped a finger on the arm of his chair. I cannot beat him, Mephisto admitted, still smiling. Not with strength. The smile sharpened. But I can aim him. He stood. His shadow stretched too long, as if it was trying to leave before he did. Prepare the contracts, Mephisto said. Prepare the rumors. Prepare the old books that always find the desperate. The demon tried to nod, and failed, because it still couldn't move. Mephisto didn't look back. One more thing, he said, almost casually. Find me the witch. Wanda Maximoff stood in a quiet room at Avengers Tower, staring at her hands. She didn't want to use her power today. She hadn't slept well. She kept seeing the streets bending, the sky tearing. She kept hearing Dormammu's voice, like a memory that did not belong to her. And she kept thinking about the calm man in the suit. Not because he was charming, because he was certain. Wanda had seen certainty before. It usually broke things. A knock came at the door. She turned. Steve stood there. Hey, Steve said softly. Can I come in? Wanda nodded. Steve stepped inside and closed the door behind him. He didn't move too close. He didn't want to crowd her. You okay? Steve asked. Wanda's laugh was small and bitter. No. Steve nodded like he expected that. Me too. Wanda stared at her hands again. He could fix anything, she said. He could stop wars. He could heal people. He could bring back. Her voice cut off. Steve's expression tightened with empathy. I know, he said quietly. Wanda's eyes flashed with pain. So why doesn't he? Steve didn't answer right away. He chose his words carefully, the way he did when he wanted to help without lying. Because power doesn't decide what's right, Steve said. People do. Wanda looked up. Do they? She asked. Steve held her gaze. They have to, he said, or the world becomes someone else's story. Wanda's throat tightened. She wanted to believe him. She also knew what it felt like when the world refused to be fair. Steve hesitated. Strange is bringing him to talk again, Steve said. Not a fight, just talk. Wanda's eyes narrowed. Talk does what? Steve's voice was honest. It keeps fear from doing something stupid. Wanda let out a breath. She didn't say it, but she was thinking the same thing. Fear made people cruel, and right now, the whole world was afraid. The meeting happened in a place that felt neutral on purpose. Not Avengers Tower, not the Sanctum. A quiet rooftop garden on a high building, away from crowds, away from cameras. The air was cold. The city stretched out below like a map made of lights. Lucifer stood near the edge, looking down, as if he could see every person at once. Strange kept a careful distance. Tony stood with his arms crossed, trying to look like he was not nervous. Steve stood with his hands at his sides, calm. Thor stood like a statue with a storm inside it. Loki leaned on a railing with a lazy grin, but his eyes were alert. Wanda stood behind Steve, not hiding, but not offering herself as the first voice either. Peter stood near Strange, trying not to fidget. Lucifer spoke first. You brought your whole court, Lucifer said, amused. Tony's mouth tightened. We brought the people who get blamed when the sky breaks. Lucifer glanced at Tony. And the people who break it, he replied. Tony almost smiled, then caught himself. Okay, you're funny. I hate that. Steve stepped forward slightly. We're not here to threaten you, Steve said. We're here to understand what happens next. Lucifer's eyes rested on Steve. Next, he repeated. You want me to promise you comfort. Steve didn't deny it. I want you to promise you won't harm innocent people, Steve said. Lucifer's gaze drifted down to the streets again. Innocent, he said softly. like the word had weight. He turned back. "I will not hunt your civilians," Lucifer said. "I did not come here for that." Peter let out a breath he didn't realize he was holding. Tony jumped in fast. "And if another Dormammu shows up?" Lucifer looked bored. "Then I will decide what I feel like doing." Tony's jaw clenched. "That's not an answer." Lucifer's eyes sharpened. "It is the only honest answer." Thor stepped forward, voice like thunder held in a hand. "You speak of choice," Thor said. "Yet you do not see how your choices shake worlds." Lucifer looked at Thor with mild interest. "You are angry," Lucifer said, "because you think strength must come with duty." Thor's grip tightened on Mjolnir. "Yes," Lucifer tilted his head. "And who gave you that duty?" Thor's mouth opened, then closed. Loki chuckled softly. "Oh, brother," Loki murmured. "He's poking your pride?" Thor shot Loki a warning glare. Wanda's voice came quiet but sharp. "He's right," she said. Everyone looked at her. Wanda's eyes stayed on Lucifer. "No one can force you to be good," Wanda said. "That's what scares people." Lucifer's gaze met hers. For the first time, his expression softened just a fraction. "Yes," Lucifer said. "That is the truth." Wanda swallowed. "So what do you want?" she asked. Lucifer looked at her like he could see the cracks in her heart without trying. That made Wanda's skin crawl. He did not smile. "I want to be left alone," Lucifer said. "And I want to see who tries to put chains on me anyway." Strange's voice was tight. "You're inviting conflict." Lucifer's eyes flicked to Strange. "I am predicting it," he corrected. Tony's watch beeped. He glanced down. A message flashed from one of his security teams. "Incident. Civilian group gathering. Signs. Mephisto out. Devil go home." Tony's stomach sank. He looked up at Lucifer. "People are already blaming you," Tony said. "Some are calling you Mephisto." Lucifer's face twisted with real annoyance. "Do not," Lucifer said, voice sharp. Peter blurted, "Yeah, I saw that online." Lucifer's eyes snapped to Peter again. Peter froze. "I'm just saying." Lucifer took a slow breath, like he was calming himself. "That name," Lucifer said, "is a parasite." Strange's eyes narrowed. "You know him?" Lucifer's smile was cold. "I know his type." Thor frowned. "If this Mephisto stirs fear, then we crush him." Loki's grin returned. "Oh, yes. Crush the dealmaker. That always goes smoothly." Wanda's eyes tightened. "He's already moving," she said quietly, like she could feel it. Strange looked at her. "You sense something?" Wanda nodded once. "Not clear," she said. "But dirty. Like a whisper in the walls." Lucifer watched her, thoughtful. Tony cleared his throat. "Okay," Tony said. "Here's my offer." Steve shot him a look. Tony raised a hand. "Not a cage, a handshake." He looked at Lucifer. "We don't understand you," Tony said. "So we don't trust you. But we also don't want to start a war with whatever you are." Lucifer smiled faintly. "Smart." Tony continued, forcing his voice steady. "You stay out of public chaos. You don't do big displays. You don't scare people more than they already are." Lucifer's smile faded. "You want me to pretend to be smaller?" Lucifer said. Tony swallowed. "I want you to not break society by accident." Lucifer stepped closer. Not fast, just enough. Tony felt it like a wall walking toward him. Lucifer's voice was calm. "Society is fragile," Lucifer said. "It deserves honesty, not theater." Tony's mouth tightened. "Honesty gets people killed." Lucifer's eyes cooled. "No," he said. "Lies do." Steve stepped between them slightly, not aggressive, just present. "Tony," Steve said, "back up." Tony did not move. His pride kept him in place. Lucifer looked at Steve, then sighed. "This world is full of frightened children," Lucifer said, "and frightened adults who act like children." Tony muttered, "Nice." Lucifer's gaze lifted, suddenly distant, like he was hearing a sound no one else could hear. Strange felt it too, a small shift in the air, a pressure like a finger tapping glass. Wanda stiffened, her eyes widened. "It's here," she whispered. "What is here?" Peter asked, voice thin. A new voice rolled through the city, quiet, slick, and close, like it was whispering into a million ears at once. Not Dormammu, something else, something smiling. "New York," the voice purred from nowhere. "You have a devil, and you don't even know his name." Tony's head snapped around. "No." Strange's hands lifted instantly, spell ready. Thor's eyes flared. Lightning crawled on his armor. Lucifer's face went still. Wanda whispered, "Mephisto." The voice laughed softly. "Ah," it said. "He knows me." Lucifer's eyes burned with calm fury. "Coward," he said. The voice did not answer him directly. Instead, it spoke to the city. "To the desperate," it whispered. "To the grieving. To the angry. To anyone who wants a deal." Strange's stomach dropped, because Strange knew what that meant. Mephisto was not challenging Lucifer with strength. He was opening a shop, and New York was full of customers. By nightfall, it started small. A man in Queens who had lost his job woke up to find a black card on his kitchen table. No one had left it there, he was sure. The card was plain. No logo, no phone number, only one line. "I can help. All you have to do is ask." He stared at it, hands shaking. He should have thrown it away. He didn't. Across town, a woman who had lost her sister last year found a voice in her dream. Soft, kind, understanding. It told her she could have one more talk, one more hug, one more chance. All she had to do was agree. In Brooklyn, a teenage boy who had been bullied for months heard the same promise. In Harlem, a tired nurse heard it too. The voice was different each time. It sounded like what they wanted to hear. And each time, the whisper ended with the same gentle phrase, "Just sign." Ghost Rider felt it like a bad taste in his mouth. Johnny Blaze was driving late, trying to avoid thinking about anything. The city lights blurred. The engine hummed. He tried to breathe like a normal guy for once. Then the air turned sharp. Not cold. Sharp. Like the world had cut itself and didn't know it yet. He gripped the wheel. His knuckles went white. His skin prickled with heat under his jacket. The spirit of vengeance stirred inside him like an animal waking up. Johnny's voice came low. "No," he muttered. "Not tonight." The spirit didn't care. It pressed forward. It showed him a flash, a million little contracts, invisible ink, hands signing in fear. And over it all, a presence, a devil smell. But not the usual one. Different, bigger, cleaner in a way. That made it worse. Johnny swore and turned the car around. He didn't know where he was going. He just followed the burn in his bones. Toward the sanctum. Toward the man everyone was arguing about. Toward the question that made his skull ache. If a devil shows up, who judges the devil? Lucifer stood in a quiet room of the sanctum, one hand resting on the top of the piano. A single lamp lit the keys. Strange stood near the door, tense. Peter hovered behind Strange, unsure if he was allowed to breathe. Outside, the city buzzed with fear and excitement, and somewhere in it, Mephisto's whispers spread like oil. Lucifer pressed one piano key, a single note, then another. He did not play a song. He played patience. Strange finally spoke, voice tight. "He's baiting people," Lucifer nodded. "Yes," Peter swallowed. "Can't we stop it?" Lucifer looked at Peter. "Stop what?" he asked. "The deals," Peter said. "The whispers." Lucifer's eyes were calm. "You cannot stop people from wanting," he said. "Only from being forced." Strange's jaw clenched. "Mephisto forces. He tricks." Lucifer's mouth curved. "Yes," he said. "He lies." Peter blurted. "So we punch him?" Lucifer looked at Peter, like Peter had suggested eating a shoe. Strange sighed. "Mephisto doesn't fight fair." Lucifer's eyes gleamed, amused and dangerous at once. "Neither do I," he said softly. A sound came from downstairs. A motorcycle engine. Then footsteps. Heavy. Purposeful. The sanctum's wards didn't flare like they did with Dormammu. They just tensed. Strange felt it and turned. The front door opened. Johnny Blaze stepped in, eyes hard, face tired, and something behind his eyes that wasn't human. He didn't ask permission. He walked straight into the room and stared at Lucifer like he could see through skin. The temperature rose. Peter's spider sense screamed. Strange's hands lifted slightly, ready to cast. Johnny's voice was low. "You," he said. "What are you?" Lucifer looked back, calm. "A guest," he said. Johnny's jaw clenched. "Devils don't get to be guests." Lucifer's smile was thin. "I am not your devil," he said. Johnny took one step forward. Flame crawled along the edges of his jacket like it wanted out. Peter whispered, Dr. Strange." Strange's eyes stayed on Johnny. "Easy," Strange said. "Not here." Johnny didn't look away from Lucifer. "People are signing contracts tonight," he said. "They don't know what they're doing." Lucifer's eyes cooled. "Yes." Johnny's voice turned sharp. "And you're just standing here." Lucifer's gaze did not blink. "I am deciding," he replied. Johnny's breath hitched like he wanted to scream. Then his head snapped slightly, like something inside him pulled the wheel. The spirit of vengeance rose. Johnny's eyes began to glow. His voice changed, layered with something older and harsher. "Guilty?" the spirit asked, staring at Lucifer. The room felt smaller. Peter's knees almost buckled from the pressure. Strange felt ancient magic scrape against the air. Lucifer looked at the spirit like he recognized the shape of it. Then Lucifer sighed. "Judge," Lucifer said softly, almost bored. "How quaint." The spirit's flames surged, trying to rise. Lucifer lifted one hand, not to attack, not to destroy, just to stop. The flames halted mid-crawl, frozen like a picture. Johnny's eyes widened in shock, even through the spirit's glow. Lucifer's voice was calm and sharp. "Do not bring chains into my room," Lucifer said. The spirit pressed, furious. Lucifer did not flinch. Then Lucifer's hand lowered slowly. The flames returned to normal, but they stayed smaller, held back. It wasn't a victory. It was a warning. Strange exhaled, careful. Johnny blinked, breathing hard now, the spirit quieter but still watching. Lucifer turned back to the piano and pressed one key again, a simple note. "Mephisto is making a mess," Lucifer said. "He always does." Johnny's voice was rough, human again. "Then stop him," he said. Lucifer's eyes lifted. "Stop him," Lucifer repeated, tasting the request. Strange watched Lucifer closely. "What are you thinking?" Strange asked. Lucifer's smile returned. Slow. "I'm thinking," Lucifer said, "that this universe needs a place where deals cannot crawl through the walls." Peter frowned. "Like a safe house?" Lucifer nodded once. "A neutral ground," he said. "A place where no one can be forced." Strange's stomach tightened. "That's not simple." Lucifer's eyes gleamed. "Nothing worth having is," he said. Outside, far away, Mephisto's whisper slid through a sleeping apartment. A tired hand reached for a black card, and the city leaned closer to the edge. Lucifer moved through New York the next day, like a man walking through a noisy museum. He didn't hide. He didn't hover over crowds. He simply walked, hands in his pockets, eyes scanning. Strange stayed close, cloak floating like it was ready to tackle someone. Peter followed too, because Peter didn't trust the city to handle this alone. Johnny Blaze followed at a distance on his bike, not joining the group, but not leaving either. He watched Lucifer like a predator watches another predator. The first place Lucifer went was not a store. It was a church. Old stone, dusty steps, a place squeezed between taller buildings like it had been forgotten. Inside, it smelled like candles and time. A priest froze when he saw Lucifer. The priest's eyes went wide. His hands shook. Lucifer sighed. "Please," Lucifer said, voice calm. "Do not faint. It's inconvenient." Peter whispered to Strange. He just told a priest not to faint. Strange whispered back, "Keep your comments internal." Lucifer walked to the front, looked up at the cross, and stared for a long moment. His expression did not show sadness. It showed memory. Then he turned away like the room had bored him. "Not here," Lucifer said. Strange frowned. "What are you looking for?" "A thin place," Lucifer replied. "A corner where the rules are weak." Peter blinked. "Like a haunted house?" Lucifer glanced at him. "If that is your word," Lucifer said. They left. They walked blocks. They passed a subway entrance where people argued about last night's sky door. A man shouted, "It was Mephisto!" A woman yelled back, "It was an angel!" Lucifer's jaw tightened again at the name. Peter saw it and tried to redirect the mood. "So," Peter said, "do you have like a job, a hobby, a Netflix account?" Lucifer looked at him like Peter had asked if he ate batteries. "I used to run a club," Lucifer said. Peter's eyes widened. "Oh, okay. Cool. Wait, like a music club?" Lucifer's smile returned. "Yes," he said. "Music, drinks, humans pretending they are free for a few hours." Strange's eyes narrowed. "That's what you miss." Lucifer's smile faded. "I miss quiet," he said. Johnny's bike engine growled in the distance like a warning. Lucifer stopped in front of an old theater with a broken sign. The building looked abandoned, but not dead. The air around it felt slightly wrong to Strange, like the walls had heard secrets. Lucifer touched the door handle. The air shivered. Strange's eyes widened. "You feel that?" Lucifer nodded. "Here," he said simply. Peter looked up at the cracked windows. "This place looks like it has rats the size of motorcycles." Lucifer's eyes flicked to him. "Rats are honest," Lucifer said. "They take what they want and do not pretend it is holy." Peter made a face. That was weirdly deep. Strange stepped forward. "What exactly are you planning?" Lucifer turned, calm and firm. "A place where whispers cannot enter," he said. "A place where contracts fail." Johnny finally walked closer, boots heavy. "You can make that?" Johnny asked, suspicious. Lucifer's eyes met his. "Yes," Lucifer said. Strange's throat tightened. "If you change the rules in one spot, the rest of reality notices," Strange warned. "The cosmic watchers, the ones you felt." Lucifer smiled faintly. "Let them notice," he said. "I am tired of pretending I'm smaller than I am." Peter's stomach dropped. "That sounds bad." Lucifer looked at Peter, and his expression softened a fraction. "It sounds honest," Lucifer corrected. Strange stepped closer. "If you do this wrong, you create a wound," Strange said. "A wound things like Dormammu or worse can push through." Lucifer's eyes cooled. "Then you will help me do it right," he said. It wasn't a request. It wasn't a threat either. It was a statement like gravity. Strange hated that part of him agreed. "Fine," Strange said. tightly. "We do it carefully." Lucifer nodded. Then he looked at the theater door again. "One more issue," Lucifer said. Peter sighed. "There's always one more." Lucifer turned to Strange. "We need permission," Lucifer said, as if that mattered. Strange blinked. "From who? The owner?" Lucifer nodded. "It is their building," Lucifer said. "They should choose." Peter stared at Lucifer. "You want consent?" Lucifer's eyes narrowed. "I am many things," he said. "I am not a thief." Johnny's mouth tightened like he didn't know what to do with that. Strange rubbed his face. "Okay," Strange said. "We find the owner." Peter pointed at a faded sign. "It's called the Lyric Crown Theater. Sounds fancy." Lucifer's smile returned. "It will do." The owner turned out to be an old man named Salvatore. He lived in a small apartment above a closed deli. He answered the door with a baseball bat in his hand. When he saw Strange, he almost shut the door. When he saw Spider-Man, he froze. When he saw Lucifer, he went pale. Lucifer looked at the bat. "If you hit me with that," Lucifer said calmly, "your arm will hurt." Salvatore's hands shook harder. Peter stepped forward fast. "Hi, sorry. We're not here to rob you. I'm Spider-Man. I don't rob." Salvatore's eyes darted. "Who is he?" he whispered. Peter glanced at Lucifer. A guy." Lucifer's mouth twitched. Strange stepped in. "Sir," Strange said, "we need to speak to you about your theater." Salvatore swallowed. "That place is cursed," he said. "I tried to sell it. Deals fell apart. People got sick. I locked it and never looked back." Lucifer's eyes sharpened with interest. "Cursed," he repeated. Salvatore nodded quickly. "Yes. So whatever you want." "No." Lucifer leaned forward slightly. His voice stayed calm. "I want to remove what's feeding on it," Lucifer said. "And I want to make it into neutral ground." Salvatore stared. "Neutral what?" Strange tried to explain in simple words. "A safe place," Strange said. "A place where harmful magic can't force people." Salvatore looked between Strange and Lucifer. "For free?" he asked, suspicious. Lucifer smiled. "Nothing is free," he said. Salvatore gripped the bat harder. "I knew it." Lucifer's expression stayed mild. "I will pay," Lucifer said. Salvatore blinked. "With money?" Lucifer looked genuinely confused for a second. "With value," Lucifer said. Peter groaned softly. "Here we go." Lucifer turned to Salvatore. "I will give you a favor," Lucifer said. "A true favor, not a lie, not a trick. One thing you desire." Salvatore's eyes widened. "Like a wish?" Strange's head snapped. "No," Strange said sharply. "Do not." Lucifer held up a hand, calm. "I did not say unlimited," Lucifer said. "I said one." Salvatore stared at Lucifer like he was staring at a cliff. His voice came out small. "I want my son to stop hating me," he whispered. Peter's heart sank. Strange's jaw clenched. Lucifer's eyes stayed steady. "That is not a thing I can force," Lucifer said. Salvatore flinched. "So you lied?" Lucifer shook his head. "I did not lie," Lucifer said. "I can give you a chance. I can place you in the right moment. I can open a door. But he must choose." Salvatore's bat lowered an inch. Strange's chest tightened. He hated that Lucifer was being honest. Lucifer continued, calm. "If you want your son's love without his choice," Lucifer said, "then you don't want love. You want control." Salvatore's eyes filled with tears. He began. Lucifer's voice softened, almost kind. "Then choose the chance," Lucifer said. "Not the chain." Salvatore swallowed hard. He looked at Strange. "Is this real?" he asked. Strange hesitated, then nodded once. "It's real," Strange said. "And it's dangerous." Salvatore looked back at Lucifer. His shoulders sagged. "Fine," Salvatore said. "Take the theater. Make your safe place. Just don't bring more demons." Lucifer smiled faintly. "I'll do my best," he said. Peter whispered to Strange. "That went weirdly wholesome." Strange whispered back, "Don't jinx it." Salvatore wiped his eyes and held out shaky fingers. "Do I sign something?" he asked. Lucifer's smile returned wider. "Yes," Lucifer said brightly. "Excellent." Peter muttered, "Oh my God." Strange pulled out a normal paper and pen. Lucifer looked pleased, like this was the part he had been waiting for. Salvatore signed with a trembling hand. Lucifer took the paper, folded it once, and slipped it into his suit like it mattered. Then Lucifer looked at Strange with a pointed expression. "You will not spy on me while I work," Lucifer said. Strange stared. "We're past that," Strange said. Lucifer smiled. "Are we?" he asked. Peter threw his hands up. "Can we please save the city before we do paperwork?" Johnny's voice came low. "The paperwork is how the devil wins," he said. Lucifer glanced at him. "The paperwork is how adults avoid violence," Lucifer replied. Johnny scowled, and somewhere deep below, Mephisto smiled at the idea of signatures. That night, they entered the Lyric Crown Theater. Dust covered the seats like gray snow. The stage curtain hung crooked. Old posters peeled from the walls. Strange's senses prickled. The place wasn't just abandoned, it was watched. Wanda arrived quietly with Steve a few minutes later. Steve wanted eyes on this. Wanda wanted to understand the whisper she had felt. Tony didn't come in person. He watched through drones parked outside, because his drones wouldn't cross the threshold without glitching. Thor waited on the roof, lightning ready. Loki waited in the shadows, pretending he was bored. Lucifer walked down the aisle like a man returning to a favorite room. He stepped onto the stage. He looked out over the empty seats. Then he spread his arms slightly, as if greeting an invisible crowd. "Now," Lucifer said softly, "show yourself." The air behind the curtain rippled. A smell like burned paper filled the theater. A voice whispered from the walls. Not one voice. Many. Like a group speaking in a breath, Wanda stiffened. Her eyes widened. "That's not Mephisto," she whispered. Strange's face tightened. "No," Strange said. "That's older." The curtain twitched. Then it pulled itself open. Something stood in the darkness behind it. Not a body. Not a person. A presence, thick and heavy, like a storm made of thoughts. It pressed into the room, trying to make everyone's knees bend. Peter grabbed a seat to steady himself. Steve's jaw clenched. He held his ground. Johnny's eyes narrowed, flames flickering under his skin. Wanda's hands rose, red energy sparking around her fingers. Strange stepped forward, voice hard. "Chthon," Strange whispered. The presence reacted to the name like it enjoyed it. A low, pleased feeling rolled through the theater. Lucifer's face stayed calm, but his eyes sharpened. "Ah," Lucifer said. "So this is what's been nesting." The presence pushed a whisper into Wanda's mind. Wanda flinched like she'd been slapped. Strange snapped, "Wanda!" Wanda's breath hitched. "It's offering," she said, voice shaking. "It's offering me answers." Lucifer's eyes cut to the darkness. "Stop," he said. The presence laughed without sound and pushed harder. The walls of the theater seemed to shift, not physically, but like reality was being leaned on. Strange raised a glowing shield and slammed it into the air. A golden barrier flared between Wanda and the stage. The whisper hit the barrier and slid along it like oil. It tried to find a gap. Johnny stepped forward, voice low. "This is not a deal maker," he said. "This is a god of rot." Lucifer didn't look at him. "Yes," Lucifer said. "It is." Peter's voice came small. So, what do we do? Strange's voice stayed sharp. We contain it, Strange said. We don't let it touch Wanda's mind. Wanda's eyes squeezed shut. It's already touching, she whispered. Lucifer's head tilted slightly. His expression changed. Not anger. Disgust. The kind of disgust you have when you see someone using another person like a tool. Lucifer stepped forward. Strange moved with him instantly. Careful, Strange warned. If you rip it out, you tear a hole. Lucifer didn't stop. Then you will stitch, Lucifer said. He reached out and placed one hand on the stage floor. The theater went quiet. Not dead quiet. A controlled quiet. Like someone had muted the room. The pressure from the presence hit a wall. The whisper tried to keep moving and failed. Wanda gasped, like she could breathe again. Strange stared at Lucifer's hand on the floor. Lucifer was not just blocking. He was changing the rules of the space. He looked at Strange. This is what I meant, Lucifer said. Neutral ground. Strange swallowed. You're building it right now. Lucifer nodded once. Then Lucifer turned back toward the darkness behind the curtain. His voice was calm, but it cut. You do not get to crawl into minds here, Lucifer said. The presence pushed back, furious. The air shuddered. A crack ran along the stage floor, thin and black, like ink seeping into stone. Strange's eyes widened. That's the door, Strange snapped. It's trying to open a door through your anchor point. Wanda lifted her hands, red energy flaring. I can hold it, she said, voice strained. Steve stepped closer to Wanda, steady. Do what you need, Steve said. Peter watched, heart pounding, feeling useless. He hated feeling useless. Johnny's eyes burned. The spirit stirred again. Lucifer's gaze narrowed at the crack. Clever, Lucifer said, almost approving. Then Lucifer pressed his palm down harder. The crack stopped spreading. The darkness behind the curtain shrank, like it was being pushed back into a corner. The presence reacted with a final, sharp whisper aimed at Wanda. Wanda's head jerked. Her eyes flashed red. Strange shouted, Wanda! Wanda's breath came fast. It showed me, she began. Lucifer's voice snapped, calm but absolute. No more, he said. He lifted his hand from the floor and flicked his fingers toward the air in front of Wanda's face. A soft pressure passed through her, like a cool breeze. Wanda blinked. The whisper went quiet. Strange's eyes narrowed. What did you do to her? Lucifer looked at Strange like Strange had asked an insulting question. I blocked the intrusion, Lucifer said. I did not erase her mind. Johnny's mouth tightened. Could you have erased it? He asked. Lucifer glanced at him. Yes, Lucifer said. Peter felt his blood run cold. Lucifer continued, calm. But that would be a cage, Lucifer said. I don't replace one thief with another. Strange exhaled slowly, trying to keep his hands from shaking. The presence behind the curtain pulled back, frustrated, like a beast denied food. But it didn't vanish. It seeped. The darkness gathered into a thin stream, like smoke trying to escape through a crack in a doorframe. Strange saw it. No. Lucifer saw it too, and his eyes sharpened. He moved, fast now. He snapped his fingers once. The theater's walls lit with pale lines, clean, bright, and silent. They formed a simple boundary, like a box drawn around the stage. The smoke hit the boundary and splattered like ink. Most of it stuck. Some of it didn't. A thin thread slipped away into the floorboards, into the city's hidden cracks. Strange's face went pale. It got out, he whispered. Lucifer's expression stayed calm, but his eyes looked colder. A piece, Lucifer said. Wanda stared at the floor, breathing hard. It wanted me, she whispered. It wanted me like Like a key. Steve's voice was steady. You're not a key, he said. You're a person. Wanda nodded, tears in her eyes. I know, she said. But it doesn't care. Johnny's voice came low. Nothing like that cares. Lucifer looked out over the empty seats again, thoughtful. Then he turned to Strange. This place is now mine, Lucifer said. And it will be neutral. Strange's throat tightened. The universe will notice, Strange warned again. Lucifer's smile returned faintly. Let it, Lucifer said. I'm tired of whisper merchants. Peter looked around the theater, then at Lucifer. So this is like your base? Peter asked. Lucifer's eyes flicked to him. A sanctuary, Lucifer corrected. A line in the sand. Tony's voice crackled through Strange's device from outside, delayed and distorted. Tony said. I'm seeing a weird energy shape form around the building. Like a bubble. Is that you guys? Strange didn't answer right away. He was watching the air, because he felt it too. That pressure again. The Watcher feeling. Not Mephisto, not Chthon, not Dormammu. Something that watched without breathing. Lucifer looked up as if meeting invisible eyes. His smile sharpened. Tell your Watchers, Lucifer said softly to the ceiling. This space is not for sale. The air didn't speak back, but Strange felt the attention linger, then shift, like a judge making a note. Outside, the city kept moving, unaware that a new rule had been written into one small corner of it. A corner where deals would fail. A corner where coercion would hit a wall. A corner that would make enemies curious and hungry. Strange looked at the thin black stain still trapped behind the boundary lines. He knew the truth. They had won a moment, but something had escaped. And somewhere in the dark, Mephisto would learn there was now a place he couldn't whisper through. Mephisto would not accept that quietly. Neither would anything else that liked chains. Weeks passed, but the city did not relax. New York kept moving because it always did. But now it moved with one extra fear hidden under the noise. People still talked about the sky door. They still argued about what they saw. Some said the man in the suit was an angel. Some said he was the devil. Some said he was a government weapon. Some said it was all a movie trick. Then the Lyric Crown Theater changed. One day it was a dead building with dust and broken seats. The next day, it looked awake. The outside still looked old, because Lucifer did not care about paint. But the air around it felt different, like the street itself was calmer near the doors, like whispers and pressure slid away instead of sinking in. Inside, the theater became a kind of quiet island. The dust was gone. The seats were repaired. The stage was clean. The curtain hung straight. The lights worked, but they were never too bright. The walls held pale lines that Strange could still see if he focused. They were not pretty. They were not for show. They were rules written into the space. Strange called it a sanctuary. Tony called it a problem. Lucifer called it neutral ground. And for once, the words mattered. Because the first time someone tried to force a contract inside the Lyric Crown, it failed. A man walked in with a black card in his pocket and a shaking hand. He didn't know what he was doing. He just knew the whisper told him to come. He stepped into the aisle, looked around, and tried to speak the deal out loud. Nothing happened. No voice answered. No heat. No pressure. Just silence. The man fell to his knees and started to cry. Not because he lost the deal, because he realized he had been crawling toward a trap, and the trap had not opened its mouth. Lucifer watched from the balcony, face calm. He did not clap. He did not celebrate. He simply nodded once, like the room had done its job. Spider-Man, standing beside Strange, whispered, "That's actually good." Strange didn't answer. He was staring at the man on the floor. He knew what that meant, too. If deals failed here, then deal makers would come looking. Lucifer's routine in this world became simple. He did not join the Avengers. He did not wear a symbol. He did not give speeches. He stayed in the theater most nights. Sometimes he played the piano. Sometimes he read books that weren't his. Sometimes he just sat in the dark and listened to the city, like he was measuring its pulse. When someone tried to force another person with magic, Strange often sensed it first. When it happened near the theater, Lucifer sensed it first. Lucifer would step out into the night, look toward the problem, and decide. Sometimes he did nothing. Sometimes he walked into the situation and ended it with a calm word that made everyone freeze. Not because he used mind control, because the pressure of his presence made even cruel people remember they were small. Tony hated that. Tony hated anything that worked without a system. So Tony kept building. He built scanners that didn't rely on magic. He built sensors that didn't rely on physics alone. He built if-then plans that tried to cover a being who did not obey if-then thinking. He didn't tell Steve everything. He told Steve enough. And Steve kept choosing trust because that was Steve's habit. But Steve also kept watching because trust didn't mean blindness. One night, Tony stood in his lab, staring at a hologram of the Lyric Crown. Friday spoke calmly. The anomaly field remained stable. Tony rubbed his eyes. "I hate that we're calling it anomaly field. It's a building." "It is a building with altered local rules," Friday replied. Tony pointed at the hologram. "Exactly. That's the problem. Buildings aren't supposed to have opinions." The lab lights flickered once, very slightly. Tony froze. He didn't feel danger. He felt a tension, a pressure, like someone in the room had turned to face him. Then his phone buzzed. Tony looked down. A new message. No number. No contact name. Just a single line. "You build cages for storms. I respect the effort." Tony's jaw tightened. He didn't need to ask who it was from. He typed back before he could stop himself. "Stop texting my phone." A second later, another message appeared. "Carry cash. It makes humans less nervous." Tony stared. Then, despite himself, Tony let out a short laugh. "Okay," he muttered. "He's a cosmic horror and a life coach." Rhodey walked in and looked at Tony's face. "Bad news?" Tony held up the phone. "He told me to carry cash." Rhodey blinked. "That's not what I expected." Tony's smile faded as he stared at the hologram again. "Something's coming," Tony said quietly. Rhodey's posture changed. "What makes you say that?" Tony's eyes narrowed. "Because it's been too quiet," he said. "And because deal makers don't like closed doors." Mephisto did not like closed doors. He could accept a hero punching him. He could accept Strange blocking him. He could accept Thor shouting at him. Those were normal problems. They were loud problems. They made noise. They made fear. Fear was good for business. But a place where his whispers went dead? That was insult. Mephisto sat in his dark room and watched his influence slide away from the Lyric Crown like water from glass. He smiled anyway, because anger was useful too. He leaned forward and spoke softly to the air. "I cannot whisper through his little rulebox," Mephisto said. "So I will not try." He tapped a finger once. A new image formed in the air. Wanda, walking alone down a hallway at Avengers Tower. Mephisto's smile sharpened. "I will whisper everywhere else," he said, "and I will make the world beg him to break his own rule." Mephisto stood and stretched his shoulders like a man preparing for a game. "Because the Morningstar hates cages," Mephisto whispered, And that means he hates the one cage he cannot escape. Mephisto's eyes gleamed. Responsibility. It started with stories. They spread through social media and late-night radio. People claimed they walked into the lyric crown and felt safe. People claimed their nightmares stopped at the door. People claimed their bad thoughts got quieter there. Then the stories changed. People claimed Lucifer looked into their eyes and made them tell the truth. People claimed he offered deals. People claimed he threatened them. Most of it was fake. But it didn't matter. The point was not truth. The point was pressure. A crowd formed outside the lyric crown one evening. Not a riot. Not yet. A crowd of desperate people. A mother holding a picture of her child. A man with bandaged hands. A teenager with eyes full of anger. They didn't chant. They didn't scream. They just stared at the doors like they were staring at a hospital that refused to open. Spider-Man landed on a nearby roof and watched, heart heavy. He whispered into his comm, guys, we have a crowd. Not violent. Just desperate." Steve's voice came back fast. "I'm on my way." Strange's voice was tight. "Do not let them force entry." Tony's voice cut in. "And do not let our guest fix this by snapping his fingers at their brains." Peter swallowed. "Yeah," he said. "That would be bad." He looked down at the crowd again. It made him angry in a soft way. Because he understood them. Wanting help was human. Wanting a miracle was human. And right now, New York had a walking miracle who refused to be owned by anyone's needs. Peter didn't know who was right. He only knew people were about to get hurt, one way or another. Inside the lyric crown, Lucifer listened to the crowd without moving. He sat in the front row with his hands folded, as calm as ever. Strange stood near the stage, tense. Johnny Blaze leaned against a wall, arms crossed, eyes sharp. Wanda stood, near the aisle, looking like she wanted to leave and also like she couldn't. The air in the theater stayed steady, quiet, protected. Outside, the crowd's fear pressed like weather. Strange finally spoke. "They think you'll save them?" Lucifer's eyes stayed on the doors. "They think many foolish things," he replied. Strange's jaw clenched. "Be careful," Strange said. "This is the kind of moment Mephisto loves." Lucifer's smile was faint. "I know," he said. Wanda's voice came small. "They're hurting," she said. "They don't know who you are. They just know you stopped a building and closed the sky." Lucifer glanced at her. His expression softened slightly again, like he saw the weight she carried. "They want a god," Lucifer said. "They want a parent. They want a boss who fixes everything." Johnny's voice was low. "And you don't." Lucifer's smile turned colder. "No," he said, "because that would be another cage." Strange moved closer. "So what will you do?" Strange asked. Lucifer didn't answer right away. He stood. He walked to the stage. He looked out over the empty seats like he was about to perform. Then he spoke softly, and the theater carried his voice toward the doors. Not magic mind control, just volume in the right place, clear and firm. "Do not come in asking to be owned," Lucifer said. "Do not come in asking me to own you." The crowd outside went quieter, confused. Lucifer continued. "If you are here because someone is forcing you," he said, "this place will protect you. If you are here because you want me to rewrite your life, you will leave disappointed." Strange watched Lucifer's posture. Lucifer wasn't enjoying this. He was doing it because he chose to, because he hated coercion more than he hated being needed. The doors opened. Lucifer walked out onto the front steps. The crowd saw him, and a ripple moved through them. Fear, awe, hope. A woman stepped forward first, shaking. "My son," she said. "Please. He's sick. The doctors." Lucifer looked at her gently. almost like a tired teacher. "I can heal him," Lucifer said. The woman gasped and grabbed her mouth. Strange's stomach dropped. Then Lucifer raised a finger before she could speak again. "But if I do," Lucifer said, "I become the answer to every question. And then your world belongs to me, even if I never wanted it." The woman's face crumpled. "So you won't?" Lucifer's eyes stayed steady. "I will not build a world where everyone kneels for crumbs," he said. A man in the crowd shouted, angry now. "Then you're useless!" Johnny's shoulders tensed. Spider-Man landed lightly beside the steps, hands raised. Okay, Peter said. "Let's not—" Lucifer held up a hand. Peter stopped speaking at once, startled by how automatic it felt. Lucifer's eyes stayed on the angry man. "You are free to hate me," Lucifer said. "That is your right." The man opened his mouth to shout again, and then the whisper hit him. Not from Lucifer, from somewhere else. A slick voice slid between his thoughts and his anger. "You see?" The whisper purred inside his mind. "He refuses you. But I won't." The man's eyes widened. His hand went into his pocket. He pulled out a black card. Strange's face went hard. "Mephisto," Strange snapped. The crowd stirred as more people began pulling out black cards, like a sickness suddenly showing itself. Wanda's breath hitched. "No!" Mephisto's voice rolled through the street, invisible and pleased. "Such a lovely show," Mephisto said. "So much pride, so much pain." Lucifer's eyes turned cold. "You," Lucifer said quietly. Mephisto laughed. "Yes, me," he replied. "And look, Morningstar, your little sanctuary worked. I couldn't whisper inside." The crowd trembled. People looked around, frightened, now that the voice felt real. "So, I whispered outside," Mephisto continued. "And now, I have a question." The black cards in people's hands warmed. A few began to glow faintly at the edges. Strange raised a shield fast, covering the nearest civilians. Mephisto's voice became sweet. "If you will not save them," Mephisto said, "then I will." Lucifer's jaw tightened. "You will eat them," Lucifer said. Mephisto chuckled. "Details," he said. The cards flared. Thin lines of dark energy rose from them like strings, reaching toward the crowd's owners, trying to wrap around wrists and throats, not to kill, but to claim. People screamed. Spider-Man shot webs, yanking cards out of hands, sticking them to walls. "Drop the cards," Peter yelled. "Drop them now." Steve arrived at the edge of the crowd, shield up, pushing people back. "Move away," he shouted. "Now!" Tony's armor roared in from above, landing with a heavy thud. "Oh, that's a nice trick," Tony snapped. "Weaponized. Business cards. Very classy." Strange's hands moved fast, spells weaving to cut the dark strings without cutting people. Wanda's red energy flared, trying to hold the strings back. But the strings were not normal magic. They were contracts made visible. Mephisto's laughter rolled through the street. "Now, Morningstar," Mephisto said softly, "here is your cage. Either you break your rule and force their freedom, or you watch them choose me." Strange's eyes widened. "He's making it a choice trap," Strange whispered. Johnny's eyes burned. "He wants you to become a tyrant," Johnny growled at Lucifer. Lucifer stood still on the steps, eyes like ice. For 1 second, Strange feared Lucifer would snap. Not at Mephisto, at the whole world for putting him in this position. Lucifer looked at the people. Real faces, real fear, real hands shaking around black cards. Then Lucifer looked up at the empty air, where Mephisto's voice seemed to come from. Lucifer spoke, calmly, but the street felt his words like a weight. "You want me to force them?" Lucifer said. Mephisto's voice purred. "Yes," he said. "Just this once. Just one push, one little rewrite." Lucifer's smile was sharp and humorless. "No," Lucifer said. Mephisto's laughter stopped. The strings tightened on a few wrists. People cried out. Strange flinched, ready to act. But he knew Mephisto would twist any hard move into a deeper trap. Lucifer stepped off the steps and walked into the crowd. Tony tensed. Wizard. Your guy is walking into the contract spaghetti." Strange didn't answer. He watched Lucifer's hands. Lucifer did not touch anyone. He did not grab the strings. He did not erase minds. He did something cleaner. He spoke to the crowd in a voice that carried through fear. "If you hold that card," Lucifer said, "you are choosing a chain. You can drop it." Mephisto's voice hissed, angry now. "They already agreed." Lucifer cut him off. "No," Lucifer said. "They were tricked." Mephisto laughed again, bitter. "Tricked people still sign," he said. Lucifer's eyes burned. "Then let us test your contracts," he said. Lucifer lifted one hand and pointed at the lyric crown doors. "Step inside," Lucifer told the people, "if you want to be free of it." Some hesitated. Some were too scared. A mother with shaking hands took one step toward the theater, clutching her card like it was a lifeline and a curse. Spider-Man webbed a path through the crowd like a guide rope. "This way," Peter called. "Go, go!" Steve pushed from behind gently. "Steady." "Move," he said. "We've got you." People began to run for the doors. The moment they crossed the threshold, the dark strings snapped. Not violently, but cleanly, like a bad deal hitting a wall. Cards fell to the floor, suddenly just paper. People stumbled, then sobbed in relief. Mephisto's voice roared, furious. "You're cheating!" Lucifer's smile returned, cold and pleased. "No," Lucifer said. "I'm enforcing consent." Strange's breath caught. This was Lucifer's choice. He wasn't forcing anyone to be free. He was offering an exit that Mephisto couldn't block without revealing the lie. Mephisto's voice turned sharp. "Fine," he spat. "Then I'll take the ones who stay." A few people still stood outside, frozen by fear or stubborn anger. Mephisto's strings tightened again, trying to claim them. Wanda lifted her hands, eyes bright with strain. "I can't hold all of it," she gasped. Tony fired a controlled blast at the cards on the ground, trying to destroy them. But the cards weren't the whole problem. The agreement was in the mind. Lucifer's eyes flicked to the people who still hadn't moved. He walked toward them slowly. One man glared at Lucifer. "You won't help?" the man spat. "He will." Lucifer stopped a few feet away. His voice was calm. "He will own you," Lucifer said. "He will feed on you. He will take your choices and call it a gift." The man's hand shook. "At least he offers something." Lucifer nodded once. "Yes," Lucifer said. "That is how parasites talk." The man hesitated. Mephisto's whisper surged in his ear, trying to drown Lucifer out. Lucifer leaned in slightly, voice firm and clear. "I will not fix your life by stealing it from you," Lucifer said. "But I will give you one honest thing." The man blinked. "What?" Lucifer pointed to the theater doors. "A door," Lucifer said. "A choice." The man's breath hitched. He looked at the card, then at Lucifer, then at the door. He dropped the card and ran. The last string snapped as he crossed the threshold. Mephisto's voice screamed, not in pain, but in rage. "You think you won?" Mephisto hissed. Lucifer looked up, eyes flat. "I think you lost," Lucifer said. Mephisto's voice became quieter, colder. "You made a home," Mephisto said. "A little kingdom. You'll defend it. You'll defend them. And every time you do, you'll look more like a ruler." Lucifer's smile turned thin. "And you'll still be a merchant," Lucifer replied. Mephisto didn't answer. But the air shifted. Strange felt it. A different pressure. Not Mephisto. Not Chthon. Something vast and calm. Tony looked around, uneasy. "Oh no," Tony muttered. "Not the cosmic judge vibe again." The streetlights flickered once, and for a moment the world felt like it was being weighed. Lucifer lifted his chin as if facing an invisible court. Strange felt his stomach twist. "Lucifer," Strange warned softly, "don't provoke." Lucifer spoke anyway, voice calm, not loud, but certain. "I will not be owned," Lucifer said. "Not by devils, not by gods, not by your cosmic laws." The pressure did not speak, but Strange felt a clear message in his bones. A warning, a line. If Lucifer stayed here, the universe would not ignore him forever. Tony swallowed. Steve tightened his grip on his shield. Wanda stared at the air with wide eyes. Peter felt small again. Lucifer didn't look away. He simply said, softer, almost to himself, "Good." Then the pressure eased, like the court had heard him and decided to watch longer. Mephisto's whispers faded from the street, retreating like a snake pulling back into grass. The crowd inside the theater breathed again. Strange lowered his hands, trembling slightly. Tony's faceplate slid open. He looked at Lucifer with a tired, frustrated respect. "You did it without mind control," Tony said. "I hate that I respect that." Lucifer glanced at him. "Carry cash," Lucifer said. Tony stared. "We are not doing this right now." Spider-Man, breathing hard, looked at the people safe inside. Then he looked at Lucifer. "Okay," Peter said quietly. "I get it now." Lucifer's eyes flicked to him. "Do you?" Lucifer asked. Peter nodded. "You're not here to be our hero," Peter said. "You're here to keep the door open." Lucifer's smile softened just a fraction. "Yes," he said. "That is close enough." And in that moment, the new status quo set itself like wet cement, turning solid. Lucifer would not be a team member. He would not be a king. He would not be a savior that people could order around. He would be a line in the world that said, "No forced chains here," and that would change everything. The next evening was quiet. Not "no crime in New York" quiet. That never happened, but quieter. The lyric crown smelled faintly of clean wood and old velvet. The seats were empty. The stage lights were dim. Lucifer sat at the piano again. His fingers moved across keys in a slow pattern, gentle and steady. Peter Parker stood in the aisle, not in his suit, just a kid in a hoodie who had seen too much. He didn't know if he was allowed to be here. Lucifer didn't look up. "If you're going to hover," Lucifer said, "at least breathe." Peter exhaled. "Sorry," he said, stepping forward a few rows. Lucifer kept playing, soft notes filling the empty theater. Peter watched him for a moment. Then he asked the question that had been stuck in his chest for weeks. "Do you ever regret it?" Peter asked. Lucifer's hand slowed slightly. "Regret what?" Lucifer asked. "Not fixing everything," Peter said. "You could. You could stop people from getting hurt. You could stop so much." Lucifer pressed one key, holding the note. Then he let it fade. He finally looked at Peter. His face was calm, not cold, just clear. "No," Lucifer said, "because then it would not be your life." Peter swallowed. "But people suffer," he said. Lucifer nodded once. "Yes," he said. "And they still choose. That matters." Peter's voice shook. "Even when they choose wrong?" Lucifer's smile was faint and tired. "Especially then," he said. "Freedom that only exists for good. Choices is not freedom. It's a leash." Peter looked down at the seats, empty and quiet. Outside, the city made its normal sounds. Cars, distant sirens, a subway rumble. Life. Peter looked back up. So what are you then? He asked softly. Good. Bad? Lucifer's eyes gleamed with a small hint of humor. I am honest, Lucifer said, and I am bored less often now. Peter almost laughed, then didn't. He nodded slowly. Okay, he said. I think I can live with that. Lucifer returned his gaze to the keys. He played again, a simple tune that didn't try to be grand. Peter turned to leave, then paused at the aisle. Hey, Peter said, awkward. If you ever need, like, a normal person thing. Lucifer didn't look up. Cash? Lucifer asked. Peter blinked. What? No. Lucifer's smile sharpened. Then you have nothing I need, he said. Peter sighed. Fair. He walked out into the night. Lucifer kept playing. Above the city, far beyond the clouds, something watched. A silent witness. A patient court. And somewhere deeper, in darker places, Mephisto planned his next whisper. Because the universe continued, just different now. And the lyric crown's doors stayed closed to chains.